Good morning, everybody. Great to see you all here. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. A happy good morning to you. Richard Dolan here. Happy to see you all here right now. Just taking a look. It's always nice to have technical difficulties, huh? Let's see. Bill, we're going to go ahead and plug that. All right. I'm going to plan B. Happy Saturday. Good to see you. Money mentorship, money conversations. My favorite topic to talk about because it's what the world needs more of, because we all know it's fuel. But I want to take a look and see who's here. Great to see so many great friends. What's up, Donna? Nawam, good to see you, my friend. Sorry we missed each other. Great to see you, Suzanne. What's up, Yusuf? Long time. Mr. Brown in the house. Good to see you. What's up, Tara? Keith? Mark Jean, Business Machine. Mike Umnani, show me the money. Good to see you, Omer. And Emma, how are you? Good to see you, Nima. It's great to have all of you here. Antonio and Eduardo, what's up, my friend? Long time no see. So to have Jennifer and Giuseppetti. It's great to see Carrie and Keith. What's up, KK? Good to see you, bud. Lauren, Leanne. Good to see Lucy, Bill. It's great to have Hayden in the house. Welcome, man. Representing all things UK. And I'm so excited about these conversations around money, because if you've not noticed, if you're not paying attention, if you're not watching the news and taking a look at what's going on in the world, whenever there's inflationary facts and whenever there's recessionary times, regardless of what's going on in your world, the world feels the pains of the pinch. The world feels the pains of a pinch. And where do you feel pains in the pinch? Put it in the chat room. Let me get a sense of just if you know what I'm talking about. Let's take a look. Let's see. Where do you feel a pain in the pinch? It's going to be in your pocket. It's going to be where? Where do you most directly feel the pinch of these inflationary times and this recessionary period? So Nima in from Edmonton says gas. And I know which gas you're talking about, not the inside stuff, the stuff you pump at a pump. It's all in the mind, Mike says. Oh, getting existential on me already first thing in the morning. We're only 3 minutes into this call and you're already getting there. I love it. Grocery stores, that's right. Vincent Sundar, my dear friend, all the way out there in Alberta. When it comes to milk, eggs, dairy, meats, all items at a grocery store is going up. Keith UT, of course, a financial life advisor and building future wealth. That is a good one. I mean, a lot of people have got to adjust their calculations and what they need in 10, 20, 30 years, given the cost of things now. Nawam says, in everything these days, so true. And what's amazing is for everyone here, these calls are designed to act as a coaching call. But more importantly, it's also in mind for me, I'm also coaching coaches. Like, show of hands if you're a coach, you give advice, you provide leadership, you teach people. See, look around, you're not alone. And for those who check in with the recording, a lot of these folks, 85% of the time, are people who are coaches and mentors and trainers who are trying to fortify their brand and be able to galvanize their goods. And so I know that I'm not only just coaching people, I'm also coaching coaches. And so I keep that in mind when speaking to you. You'll get that. Just give me a thumbs up, making sure it's also a great way to make sure my video and audio is checked. So I always have to step back first, and rather than thinking about the things I want to speak about or talk about the insights I feel are important to share, I always look at the world and find out what it's pressed up against first. Now, if you're a coach, I would write that down. That's the beginning of my approach in creating any lecture, any conversation, any workshop. I just had a beautiful dialogue yesterday with my dear friend Keith and his partner Richard, and we had that same chat. We're talking about a day-long program, and the first thing I said was, why don't we just maybe carve off a good portion of the time to hear what's going on in their world before we lead on the assumption of what they're facing given the view in our world. It's one of the things the human betterment business doesn't do a great enough job at. Why are you here? What have you come for? What can I do for you? What challenge have you got? What crisis are you concerned with? What pains must we resolve for you? You tracking this so far? Give me an okay. So given that this is a financial life coaching conversation, and given my 25 plus years of coaching inside this space, I'm delighted to say that one of the conversations I truly sat with was, what stops us from making more money? That's my question I want to answer today. What really stops us? I mean, I can get metaphysical, I can get existential, I can get philosophical. We can have this really great banter today where I talk about all the wonderful insights that you should gather and gain just so you can arrive to a smart ass place. But it doesn't leave you accessing more. It's another challenge of the human betterment business. We spend a lot of time talking and we spend a lot less time doing. Just getting to work, getting in action, getting to the things you've just got to do, checking the boxes rather than pontificating why they're not circular. So what stops us from making more money is the conversation I want to have with you today. And what I've prepared, a little bit of a monologue, a little bit of insights, and then I want to end off by giving you, it would appear to me, four steps that you can take, but also can use in coaching others to take, especially as we head into the final month of a year. And in general, when we do look at the closing weeks and days, even hours of a calendar year, it often triggers a conversation for completion. A conversation for completion. Year-end planning, summating what it was that we accomplished, summarizing or inventorizing where we've been, being able to acknowledge those that have made a huge impact in our life, or perhaps looking to be acknowledged for the impact we were in theirs. Completing, meaning that once we declare a year over, we move into a new. You all get that? Just give me a thumbs up. So it's a good time, whether you're a coach or just for you personally, to really be able to step back and ask yourself the question, which will carry over from this year to the next: why didn't I produce more? And for today, more money. I mean, we can talk about more performance, more love, more peace, more contribution another time. Today is about you and money. And I mean, for Dr. Claudine and for Danielle and for Jim and for Jackson, I mean, these are conversations we want to know. So what's amazing is that in the world of the coaching I provide, for those who are rich advisors, who's here a rich advisor? Let's take a look. Some of you have been developed early on in my early material. Yes, you are, Noam. My mastery graduates certainly are. There's a model that I updated, and it's called Dolanetics. And yes, I named it after myself because it was my noetic approach to human betterment. I took my 25 years of experience to really compress them into a model, a tangible model that I could hand off to Suzanne or to Nima or to Vincent or to Noam or to Tara, right? Or to Mark, and be able to say, you can do this too. And in there, before you even go into the actual model, there are 6 things that you need to, in fact, be aware of, and awareness being one of the 6, so that you can already tackle a problem. Because oftentimes, whether it's a challenge called money or getting love or getting into a better relationship or getting a better job, without your own, and here comes the term, self-discovery. Without self-discovery, there is no self-determination. It just becomes another thing for you to do. It just becomes another thing for you to think about. It just becomes another book on the table that you've yet to read, but you're already enamored with the idea that you're pursuing something. We likely have more books that we haven't read than we do have books that we have read. We likely have logged more hours going to workshops than spending the exact same amount of time in new realms of new activities and actions. So this is just human behavior. So when it comes to these 6, particularly with money, the first thing I notice inside my model is you've got to grow aware. When you're far more aware that what you have is not enough, that triggers something. So awareness really is an act of self-awareness. So said a different way, ever notice that as you turn on the news, it's always the pundits or the broadcasters or the journalists who are telling you what they think is going on in the marketplace. And once in a while, you'll say, I'm not sure I agree with that, because you have a different view, different perspective, different experience. And then you start getting the hunch that's like, well, hey, Where did their opinion come from? And then when you kind of go down that rabbit hole, you start to realize, oh, wow, there's people who own these newscasts and these broadcast groups, and they have an agenda. And all of a sudden you start to realize that the view is not really that of the broadcaster. They're just a medium. You tracking this? Just give me a thumbs up. Now, I'm not trying to get to what's the source of conspiracy or what's the source of these narratives or who's really pulling the strings. No, no, no. Just to keep this simple, the first step in really understanding why you're not making more is to find out who's holding hostage your relationship to the fact that you don't have enough. So the awareness factor has to come in. The second is you've got to acknowledge. So the personal act of having awareness for where I don't have enough has to then allow you to shift and transcend to the next step of getting into proper action, which is acknowledgement, which really does show up in your world like taking responsibility. It's on me. Ever notice people in your life or people around you where they might actually be aware that they can't afford certain things, they can't have certain things, or they don't have what they thought they would have, and then they start to point the finger. They do the blame game. Well, if it wasn't for this economy, if it wasn't for the Democrats, if it wasn't for the Republicans, if it wasn't for the left, if it wasn't for the right, if it wasn't for the, and they would always point at all the reasons, factors, and justifications for why they are where they are. But the act of acknowledging that which you're aware of gives you access to being responsible. The only source you've got to really moving with haste and remaining hungry is when you're at the source of being responsible for that. Now, Terry, you skipped ahead. Acknowledging enough doesn't give you the ownership. It's the third one. It's the acceptance. So you're right there on the cusp. You see, the act of accepting where you are is letting go of the blame game. Because I got to be honest, by the way, there's sometimes when I realize I don't have enough or I'm not where I want to be, and I name a few people. The first person I throw under the bus is Ken Klinoftakis, my right-hand chief operational officer. He's the dude, and the reason why is he's built like a shit brick house. I think the bus gets hurt more than he. But we always want to throw someone under a bus because at the end of the day, it's an act of self-deflection. And self-deflection is self-deception. Deflecting is deceiving. And that's when you run down a rabbit hole thinking that it's about something else and somewhere else. And then we pack our bags, we move on, we go from the left to the right or from the right to the left. We vote blue rather than red, we go red rather than blue. And then what happens is that wherever you go, there you are. And you realize it's actually on you. So when you accept what you've acknowledged as yours, your responsibility, and when you accept what you're now aware of, as in you've been woke or are now aware of what's really going on, only through accepting it can you activate the act of owning it. That's where ownership is. So anyone that owns something is accepting something. Ownership doesn't happen when you just acknowledge it. So let's simplify this. Husband, wife, working full-time jobs. At the end of a month, they take a look and they say that their paychecks don't meet their needs. In other words, they're just not making enough. So they look at each other and they say, well, wow, we have a gap. The first thing I'd like to say is that's good awareness, because most people don't have that kind of awareness. They live in ignorance. If there's a perceived gap, they credit card themselves all the way to the end of a month, or they go into overdraft and not really quite knowing what the balance of that and the circumstances are, or they incur new fees for overdraft, but they have no idea what that would be. Y'all tracking this? Give me a thumbs up. So just being aware is the first act that empowers authentic action. The second thing, as husband, wife, or partners are saying, okay, great. What part of that should I really step up and own? Where can I take responsibility? That's the acknowledgement piece. What part am I playing in that? Can I work more hours? Can I get another job? Should we maybe put our investments into a different type of category so it can make a better yield? As you're beginning to look for how you can acknowledge, here it comes, the factors of what drives the figures, you now are starting to put your fingers on the buttons of responsibility. And responsibility, the way I spell it, is response, ability. Two words sounding like one. It's your responsibility once you acknowledge where you can, in fact, step up to. But as husband, wife, life partners, even you by yourself or another says, okay, great, I got to accept this. When you accept and you take full ownership for everything that it is and everything that it is not in your financial life, you are immediately detaching yourself from the story and the storm, the anger and the upset. And this is largely why people still don't make enough, because we're still in the belly, we're still in the undertow of the what already has you upset about it. And there's two types of upset you can have, and they come from the world, the experience of stress. There's distress, which is very upsetting, very enraging, very bothersome, distress, and then there's eustress. And eustress is good stress, like hurrying up to pack your bag to get to Hawaii, right? Or hurrying up to get down to the hallway to get to your spa appointment, right? Or scrambling, holding and trying to bear with two gigantic beers to hit the seats in time for the first pitch. Like, that's good stress. Like, those are blessings. Y'all get that? So eustress is good stress. Distress is distressing. And so when you start to realize that why we don't get access to more, and in this particular case, more money, is because we're managing ourselves in our experience inside the realm of distress. And it's that must get diffused. So it becomes good stress, or what you'd call positive stress. Who can give me some other examples of positive stress? Put it in the chat room. Let me see. Oh, what's up, Stevie? I just saw you, man. Good to have you, buddy. So Dr. Claudine, good to have you, dear. Helping others, that's a good stress. Weight training, says Fazil, Mr. Wake Up Mentor. Good one. What else? Helping others, I got that one. Where to put the money in, that's right. Well, here's some other good stress. How about being obsessed over the most important parts of getting ahead? Yeah, buying the right Christmas presents, that's good stress. What you want to know is how you're going to grow. So what we're unpacking right now is we're handling one concern, especially as we zero in on the tail end of a year where people are going to be haunted by a question that will carry over to the new year, which is, what stops me from making more money? That's the question we want to handle. What I've talked about is that in order for us to get into authentic action, there are three psychological, self-discovery, self-reorienting conversations that have to occur and in succession in order for you to get into authentic action. First, people have to demonstrate that they're aware of what works and what doesn't work. I ain't making enough. I'm not doing enough. I'm not exactly. Second, they acknowledge it. And the act of acknowledgement is to be responsible for where they are and where they're not. So that the third is to fully accept it, which is the ultimate act of ownership. And owning it only allows you to grow from it. Unless those three dimensions of human awareness occur, there's no way anyone's going to alter their trajectory. Ever notice that even some of the things that's in your life right now that you've complained about, you still complain about them? Just think about that for a second. They're still there. They're constants, unless something really massively interrupts the pattern. Unless something really, in fact, intrudes or happens. So here's what's in between taking action and authentic action. Action often is only an act of inquiry. I'll say that one more time. We write down the things we've got to do, but rarely get done. So I would assert that just because you think about action doesn't mean you're in it. A lot of us want to get to the gym. A lot of us might want to lose weight, get in shape, cut out sugars, do something to better ourselves. We know what we like to do. And some of us have even been told to do it by a loved one, even a doctor or a professional. But just the act of knowing what you've got to do doesn't mean you're doing it, which is another part of the illusion in this betterment business, right? In other words, we'll go to workshops, we'll come to Zoom rooms, we might even hire a coach, but unless you do the work, nothing will work. Make sense? You're just understanding a little bit better and deeper what it is that you're now working with. So there are 3 questions that you always want to be left with: always asking, always answering. Always asking, always answering. Number 1 is, what do I do? What's there to do? Number 2 is, how do I do it? How do I do it? I want to know what to do and how to do it. And I need to know, where do I begin? Those 3 questions, once answered, always puts you to the source of go, of getting started, starting anew. Failing to ask those questions, though, only has you doing what? Surviving the situation, making do with it, consorting to it, living with it. Just think about all the things that we live with in our day-to-day lives. Likely jobs, positions you never wanted, maybe a current environment in which you live in, even the person you're living with right now and or are married to. Should have left him years ago. But you make do, we make it work, because everything that you work works, but you got to work it. Everything works when you work it. Everything. So conforming is an act of working it. The question just becomes, well, what are you working? So when you get to the source of those answers, which is, what do I do? How do I do it? Where do I begin? It always brings you to go. Like the Monopoly game, go, right? Circle the board, collect 200, start from go. It gets you back to go. So as you learn, as you grow, as you get educated, now you're in action, but you're not in authentic action. And I would write that down like the next stage of action. You see, unless you're in authentic action, you're just pacifying your experience in an old one. So you buy a book, no change is made. You go to a workshop, life's still the same, right? You have this huge conversation with your spouse, your partner, or other loved ones, and until you do something actually and alter something, it all stays the same. So let me just pause for a moment before I go to the big aha. I'm going to give you the big aha of what's missing. In those 3 steps of having the awareness and acknowledging and then accepting, there is one that is missing, that if you put it on top of all of those inquiries, self-inquiries, that whole realm of self-awareness, authentic action will always escape you. So let me pause for a moment and see where this is landing with everybody. Who here can share with me how this is actually really sounding familiar? It sounds like you or the clients you coach, the people you're surrounded with, or the environment you're in, even your customers, your clients, your students, your coachees. I want to hear from you. I want to make this our conversation, not just a presentation. Just put your hand up digitally so I can hear your voice. All right, I'm going to Fazil.
Hey, Rich, it's pronounced Faisal.
Faisal. What's up, my man?
Doing great, thanks. Doing great. Thanks for the invitation.
I appreciate you coming. So what are you digging about the conversation so far?
Listen, look, I mentor people. At the same time, we experience the same problems everybody else has. So procrastination a little bit. I like the part where, we have to look inside and just take action, but it's not all about just taking action. It's about the strategy behind it. It's not just about attending the courses, attending a Zoom call like this one. It's about also, what am I going to do after this? And that's why I'm typing notes and making lists about what am I going to do today to move the needle, because in 24 hours, I will probably have forgotten 80% of what you just said.
Well, hold on. And you see, he makes a great point, which is the reason why most of us don't retain what we've learned, what we've heard, what we paid to be taught, is because we just don't implement it. Some memory researchers will say, well, you've got to take notes and repeat after me. And that helps engagement levels, which activates parts of the brain that says this stuff is important. But just think about the last time you watched shows or TV or a movie. And if I were to ask you to recite parts of that movie, could you? Chances are quite high that you couldn't. That's why we often will watch the movie, show, or TV series a second time, because you're barely paying attention the first. So unless you're looking for something you need and wish to implement, it won't stick. And the only place it sticks is in authentic action. But there is something missing. I'm going to share it. Brother, good to hear your voice, man. I think everyone should follow you at Wake Up Mentor. Great to have your voice here. Let me get up to Danielle Tucci, who's on the move, and I'll go to Keith.
Hi. So I love this conversation because I'm not where I want to be. And I had other people, not by choice, that were, whether from family or inserted themselves around me, judging and saying that I was deflecting. I put a plan in place, got my goals set up, and then things happen. So I'm in the process of doing it again, but I'm always aware that, hey, this is what I need to do. This is what I'm going to do to make more production. Like I went door knocking, and I also help other people that are in circumstances. Like yesterday, I put 17 hours in. I made $50. It's not about that. It's about helping too. I'm done.
No, listen, it's all about those things. But Danielle, as you know, and people can know, we can get really caught up in telling our story and telling our version of the facts. And in the end, no matter what's happened, what's going down, what people think or their opinions, they don't mean anything. The world, as my dear friend Werner once taught me, the world doesn't care what you know, what you think, where you've been, who you are. The world doesn't even care what you intend to do, what the outcomes are, what actions you wish to take, or the goals you've got. The world only cares when you act. That is the only time that matters. When rubber meets pavement and your mark in life is left, that is all that matters. What they thought, what they said, who their opinions are, what the assessments concluded, what their story was, the animation, the energy that came with it, the angst, the anger, the ups, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. And the more attention we give it, the more power it has over the present. Because the future is only but a template of the past. And until you get aware and acknowledge and accept that, there they are again, you're only going to keep repeating it. But I will give the aha. There's one thing that will bring that together and magically propel you into authentic action. I'll share it in a moment. But let me hear from Keith and the beautiful and brilliant Dr. Claudine.
Good morning, Rich.
Hey, Keith, by the way, you're beautiful and brilliant too, by the way. Just, I didn't want to put that out. And you're also a Blue Jay, so that's cool. I'll give it to you.
Thanks. I have this conversation every day right now with people. Whether, conversation with one client this week, he's like, the plan was to retire in 2 to 3 years, but because of increased, the cash flow numbers have shrunken on his real estate investments that he bought 2 years ago. And so he's like, now it looks like that's probably more in the 8-year range. And he's like, he's like, we're okay with that. We looked at it. That's what we're okay with that. But he's like, it's unfortunate. And so you've got people that have made that adjustment. In his case, he's making the adjustment and he's okay with it. Not necessarily happy about it, but he's okay with it. And if mortgage rates and if things change and rates come back down, well, then it might, maybe there's a pivot again. But then there's the other people on the other side that are just blaming everybody else for everything that's going on for them in their life. Well, if they weren't increasing interest rates, my unsecured debts wouldn't cost me so much. My mortgage wouldn't be going up, and then I wouldn't be, in this situation I am. And so there's people that are in that mindset where everything that's happening is because of everything external. and they don't see how or what they can control internally. And then the other one are the people that are calling me going, what do I need to know to make the right decision here? Am I, I'm in a variable, do I go fixed? My mortgage is coming up for renewal. What are your thoughts about rates and timing and the economy? And people that are willing to ask questions and listen, and only by understanding more about them can I help give them some ideas of direction that they need to maybe consider. And that's those are 3 different types of conversations that I'm having pretty much on within a week. And some of them are all one way one day, and some are all the other way another. So that's where people are feeling right now. And in Canada, we've got another rate announcement this week. And how people are going to feel coming up to Christmas if they do another increase, that's going to have a whole different picture for a lot of people this year. And that's unfortunate, but only, you're talking all about a lot of it's in the mind. And unfortunately, some people can't get through to the mind until they figure out the pocketbook.
Well, these are facts. I mean, there's a lot of talk right now about what it is that it's going to take to persevere and get through the perceived pains and problems of the current market and environment. And interest rate hikes are one of them. Steve Virtue here. What's up, my friend? Letting go of your ego and putting yourself in front of a mentor. I mean, these are things where we have to be a little bit vulnerable, but you also have to do the work. You just can't walk into a gym and say, okay, Jim, now do me. You got to put in the reps, you got to put in the sweat, you got to put in the discipline to get the results can be created in that space. And money works the same way. Love, relationships, fitness, everything takes work. And you're right. I love that you've got a very different perspective, but I want to hear some other perspectives because I know Dr. Claudine's here and Mike Gumnani, Aaron Dunn. But I got to say hi to little Ward Jr. there. What's up, man? Let's give him a little thumbs up. What's up, buddy? Oh, I get the thumbs up. Ooh, ooh. All right, I'll take it. Dr. Claudine, come on in. I'm going to get to Mike Gumnani and Aaron Dunn next. Oh, wait, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Let's do that one more time. So there, I've unmuted you. Yeah, unless you guys can hear her, I can't hear her, right? I can't hear. So it might be your microphone may not be working. So why don't you figure that out? I'm gonna leave your hand up and we can turn that frown upside down. And I'm gonna get to Mike Gumnani while you figure that out. And then hopefully you're ready to go. Mike Gumnani, show me the money, Mr. New Jersey. What's going on, man?
Hey, good morning, guys. Happy Saturday. Glad to see everybody on the show. I think one of this is influence. A lot of times people get influenced. They don't use their common sense and they don't have a balance to what they want in life. On the top of that, things like jealousy. And most of the time, a lot of times they don't want to hear their problems. I have clients when sometimes I speak to them, anything from shrugging off the issue to realizing they know that they have a problem, but they just sometimes don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the fact that they don't want to hear that they have problems. And this is some of the setbacks they have. And then, the crowd, there's a lot of factors falling into it, but these are some of them, a lot of times influence as well. Just wanted to add that.
Well, I love that you're saying that. I mean, you're a man who works with people and their money. The reason why people are resisting being aware where ignorance is bliss, the reason why people are resisting acknowledging what works and doesn't work, the reason why people are resisting where they need to take acceptance and an opportunity to be responsible for something and then thus own it is because they don't want to, in fact, be responsible for what comes next. And for those who've been following my science and my work, that's where the keepers come in. The keepers govern your relationship to the experience when you're doing without. So for those who don't know, I've often said that there's things in your mind, mental constructs that guard and protect you, which we've come to call the 3 keepers. And they show up the moment you've got to be something you've not been. So if you step up in front of an audience and you're afraid of being judged, or you don't feel like you're going to do great, or you're afraid of getting it wrong, those are keepers, the keeper of judgment, ego, and fear. Those are the 3. There is a 4th keeper, by the way, and for those who've taken the Rich Advisor program, you'll know that I revealed this in level 4 of the certification which is my version of what it means to be an epic coach. The way I've been coaching for 30 years, I codified it. In there, I revealed there is a fourth keeper, which is called fantasy. The keeper of fantasy is fixated on your vision of what life should look like, how it should appear for you and for others. This is where we have this massive asphyxiation to the concept of yourself, the concept of success. And it would sound like this: it should be like, it should go like, it should have been like this, it should be like that. It shouldn't be like this, and it shouldn't be going like that. Y'all tracking this? Just give me a thumbs up. So the four keepers, technically, the keeper of judgment, the keeper of ego, the keeper of fear, and the keeper of fantasy, are keeping you still stuck and small. This is where you make do with enough. This is where it's like, it's the way it is. This is the way it's going to be. And a guy like you, Mike, is getting people really super present to the fact that there's a cost and consequence to resisting it. But for those advanced coaches like you, Mike, and I want everyone to take a note of this, what do people ultimately resist when they're resisting the requirements of being aware, the requirement of acknowledgement, the requirement of acceptance? What are they really resisting?
Judgment.
Close. Remember, when you power through any of the keepers, the psychological stoppers for what keeps you back, keeps you small, keeps you thinking, what is it that they're really preventing you from being in?
Yeah.
Close. Action.
Okay.
You see, when you're in action, the keepers are activated. Tony Robbins once said that if you want something you've never had, you've got to do something you've never done. But the gap between that realization is doing the unknown, stepping out into the unknown. And the minute you head into an uncertain state, an uncertain world, an unpredictable future, like until you do something you've never done, right? You won't know what it's like to power through the keepers, because they're designed to keep you intact, keep you surviving, keep you okay. And I think we all agree that okay ain't enough. Okay ain't enough. That's why this is a money coaching conversation. You've got to wake up. I'm going to give you the catalyst, though. There's a catalyst. Mike, so good to hear your voice, man. You're such a great coach, a great student, a great influence. For those who don't follow Mike Pugnani, you should. He's based in New Jersey and impacts everywhere. Let me get back up to Dr. Claudine before I go to my brother Aaron Dunn. Let's see if Dr. Claudine's got this mic handled. Okay, I've unmuted you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
We got you. Houston, we have liftoff.
Woo, thank God, thank God, thank God. I was about to cry. I was like, why?
Oh.
The money. I need
Don't cry for me, Claudina. There's no need. There's no need.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love, I'm so grateful that I'm here. I love this conversation. The tips you gave us, the strategy you gave us before about taking responsibility, discovering who we are. It's what I used. I didn't know that there's a strategy or principle to use to overcome. I used that when I survived the genocide in Rwanda when I was a teenager. I had to take responsibility to figure out what I need to do to continue my life, because I was like, this is it. I don't have a parent, I don't have a mom, I don't have a father. I have to figure out what to do for my life to keep moving. Otherwise, everything is in my hand. I complain, cry, fighting with everybody, which I had the right to do. Or I focus on figuring out what to do to keep moving to succeed. Like Tony also said, the massive success is the best revenge you can ever do. So I acknowledge that. You helped me to understand that I use the principle, successful principle, which I didn't know that I was using. So to the point you highlighted a few minutes ago, I think because I work with charity, I have a charitable organization called Why Do I Exist, to help orphans in Rwanda. It's what I promised to God when I was jumping over the body of the people during the genocide, that if I survive, I would help orphans. I'm grateful. I'm in New York. Maybe one day I will meet the New Jersey guy, Garden State.
Oh, I'd love to see you in New York.
One of the work we do in my charity is to inspire young adults to create income-generating activities to become entrepreneurs. So we give them loan to sustain themselves. So the challenge I face with my team, like I said, Tony said, if you want to do something which never existed before, or if you want to be where you never went, you have to do something that other people never done. So the challenge I have in my team, I work with people who are older than me, who have experience than me. They think they know more than me. And then when I tell them something which requires flexibility, adaptability, no, they freeze, they stuck. And then I see, and then I explain to them why they still don't do it. I had to go to hire young people who understand me better so they can take action. So it's a fear, and also like this kind of a comfortable of being rejection, because when I hire young people, they do it, and then the old people than me, they tell me, oh yeah, it's good, they did this, but nah, we cannot do that. But it's a benefit for our business. So I wanted to share that.
I love that you did. I love that you did. And by the way, anyone notice, I don't know about you, but does this woman have some energy? Does she have a little bit of passion? Do you notice that she's a little excited to be alive, to be here, to be a force in the world? You see, that's what human betterment's about, that you get to be a true living demonstration of what you want for others. That's what draws me to her. It's like, I want a little bit of that. Let me just, if I can just turn you and bottle a little bit of that, I'm going to take a little bit of that every day. That's what it means to lead by example. That's what it means to demonstrate what it is that you stand for. And that's very, very important. Before we go to Erin Dunn, I do want to say something though, because Dr. Claudine mentioned this. She said the term process. The reason why I coach and I teach coaches and advisors on how to lead by process is so that you don't do it by intuition. What I just said is a very important insight that I only came to accept years later. I've coached people in the world of money, in the world of real estate, in the world of celebrity equity management. I still continue to coach lots of folks in those realms. And I lean on my intuition, but I trust the process more. And the reason why is because oftentimes that as I grow older and wiser, I lean in on the shortcuts more. Because I don't need to take the long route. Why open the door when you can actually walk through a window? The point is that when you follow the process, here it comes. It's a very advanced statement I'm about to make, especially for coaches if you coach. When you let your coachees and your clients, I don't care if you're a financial advisor, a planner, a professional, a coach, a life advisor, or a rich advisor for that matter, when you're leaning on the process, when you show them the process and the results people get from the process, they no longer feel judged by you. Because remember, those keepers are activated in the presence of another. That's why you all sing in the shower, but the minute we go to karaoke, you shut down. Because you're happy singing in the shower. Ain't no one listening to you. You're completely unbridled. And it's amazing how many things you'll do in the privacy of your own world. But the minute you're in front of the world, there's parts of you that will shut down. Those are the keepers. Shutting you down, pulling you back, getting you away from being judged, having your ego bruised, having your fears activated, or your fantasy shattered, keeping you intact, a living legend in your mind. And the minute someone shows up, you shut up. So the process allows you to be able to create the results from that act. It's so important for you to really get that. So whether I coach people in money or performance or results or business, what I continually do is I deploy a process. That process will never fail. And processes come personality free. So as I'm about to resuscitate a $2.5 billion investment house, an investment bank, effective January 1st, so excited. A handful of you are involved in that with me. It's gonna be nothing short of epic. I have a whole team that's only following this one process on how to become instruments of impact for income and wealth preservation, scientifically. So that way it's not personal. It's going to be the greatest psychological financial life experiment ever conducted in human history. We're going to be a great example for how that's created because I'm going to have a great team doing it. All right, Erin Dunn, I just unmuted you. Get in here, you bearded brother.
What's up, man?
What's going down, Charlie Brown?
Great conversation as always. One thing I wanted to say, what I wrote down, one of the things was that I appreciated was the distinguishing between action and right action is what you're speaking to, is the distinguishing between action and right action. And action being safe, secure, and right action being what scares us and draws us to becoming more. And so just wanted to say that the right action is scary, but always leading us to growth.
You see, Aaron brought up something that I'm so glad he's highlighting. And this is a very big point that I did not make, but I'm now making again because of Aaron's input. In order to build anything new, human beings must first distinguish what's already there. I'll say that one more time. In order to create any new sets of actions, any new realms of existence, any new views, any new conclusion, before you do anything new, you've got to first distinguish what's already there. I mean, that's why on December 8th, if you're writing down notes, I'm going to be hosting one of my dearest friends. It's very rare I go to the stable and I pull out one of my thought leaders, people I rely upon to do a lot of work with me. My dear friend, a fellow business partner of mine, Alan Kahn. He and I will talk about the importance of getting your life's intention right. This is a man that was the right-hand man for a very dear friend and an old mentor of mine named Werner Erhard when they created a company called Est. It's now today known as Landmark. But that man, Alan, was partner number 2. And so when I lean on him and say, look, I need you to come in front of my students, my friends, my family, and I want us to talk about what it means to get to your life's intention. One of the things that we always revisit is first having to distinguish what's already there. Otherwise, when you don't get distinguishing what's already there, you only build on top of a foundation of shit that gets shifty. So no matter how great that first, second, fifth, 10th floor is, if it's built on a pile of poo, right, it ain't for you. It'll move. It'll feel shifty. So you've got to distinguish what's already there. So Aaron, I'm grateful that you were able to find that distinction. That distinction was huge.
Can I ask one more question real quick?
Let's go, buddy.
About authenticity, the word authenticity, and you might be leading up to this, but one thing that I've read about Werner Erhard in one of his forum conversations, he was talking to someone and they were saying that you know, it doesn't feel authentic to them. And Werner replied and said, the most authentic thing you can do is admit you're not authentic and that you're always covering yourself with, you know, guards and what I'm thinking, you know, is the keepers. And so the most authentic thing you can do is admit you're not authentic. And I think it speaks to what you're talking about in accepting and acknowledging and really becoming curious on what's working, what's not.
You know, that's yet another great statement that you just made. And if you want to come back in, you can let me know. But what's amazing is that when you look at the term authentic and look it up, it actually dates back to Greek. It was born in the world of language of Greek, and it actually meant principle or genuine. So in existentialistic philosophy, it's really all about the facts. It's about the accurate, reliable truth of who you are. And the reason why most of us are just not authentic is you're bang on, Aaron. We're always in response to it by surviving it. And I'm going to get to that right now. So, by the way, great feedback from all those who participated. Let's give them a real big round of applause. Put some fire in the chat room. When you're speaking, you're leading. When you're leading, you're sharing. When you're sharing, you're causing. And so for everybody, from Mike to Aaron to Dr. Claudine and those who spoke like Keith, it says something about the contribution and the force you want to be in the world when you do that. So here's what I promise in the final 10 minutes we've got together. I'm going to bring the heat. When I talk about the importance of actually following a process, this is always an act of self-discovery. Write that down. The act of self-discovery puts you at the source of authoring what comes next. It doesn't matter, we need to author what was. The past has already been written. I don't give a rat's ass who authored it. It's behind you, it's irrelevant, it has zero impact, unless you're not wishing to write what's next. If you do not wish to write what's next, if I'm handing you a pen and you do not wish to take it to cause and create what comes next, then you will be left to live a life in default position. And in money, it is very, very clear that we often are living with the default position given we don't make change. We don't ask questions. We don't just say, hold on a second, why am I working for this asshole? Why am I still in an industry I can't stand? Why am I addicted to the paycheck, the comfort? Why am I stuck here? Until that happens, nothing will happen, and it's more of the same. And that's why a lot of you have really powerfully confronted what was. Yes, Tara? What was? Right, Vincent? Like what was? Right, Steve? It doesn't have to be permanent. So once you're able to distinguish what was, it activates a part of your self-discovery that allows you to be aware, acknowledge, and accept. That activates the powers of what it means to be human. Because the human machine is only about you pushing the right buttons and pulling the right levers. And if your hands aren't at the controls, someone's controlling you. And it's the old you, not someone else, by the way. But in order for you to get activated, to really come to understand that that's what's happening, you've got to activate through anger. You see, it's only when you're confronted by the opportunity of pleasure or you're really powerfully engulfed by pain do we move. So pain and pleasure are the ultimate motivational forces. But when you're in pain, you are activated by anger or an extension of anger, like upset, rage, etc. And without getting into what form of anger it is, the one I'm calling is called positive anger. For any psychologists here, therapists, or counselors, there are 12 types of anger. I'm only going to talk about the positive one. By the way, just heads up, of the other 11, they're all negative. Internal rage, upset, resentment. I mean, all of them are negative, but there is only one that's positive, getting angry. And I've said this story a number of times, and I'll say it again. Oprah Winfrey admitted once that when she was in Vegas sitting courtside, watching ringside, the fight of the life for Mike Tyson, the world heavyweight champion at the time, who was going to defend his belt, when they announced his weight, and weighing in at 255 pounds, the world heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson. She says, right in that moment, I got enraged that I weighed exactly as much as the world's heavyweight champion of the world. That was it. And that was when her battle with her personal weight actually began. You see, friends, when you're confronted by pain or you're presented with pleasure, we still do a silly thing, and that's contemplate. So the only thing that massively moves you in action is that you're angry, where you basically say, and I apologize if there's children in the room, but you say, fucking enough. That's it, no more. I'm drawing the line of demarcation. From this day forward, I shall not do this. From this day forward, I shall not do that. I am no longer doing this. I will never get caught in that. And you just get angry. Because in the absence of anger, all you are is a pool of resentment. Back to blaming the stories, the people and the players, the actors, and the reasons why you're not where you want to be. And this conversation is just about not making more money. You can replace that statement with any other statement, and it'll still draw us to the very fact, what's your relationship to how it is? That's what this has been about, as we're beginning to summarize the conversation and wind this down in the next 6 minutes. It all comes down to shifting your relationship to who's authored this, who's permitted this, who's allowed this, and who's continuing to be reluctant to see and say the role it's playing in our lives. So when you're angry, what you activate is a hack. And the hack in the system is hacking the keepers to serve you. I'll say it in a very different, crass way. There's a course I teach. I only do it once a year, and I'm happy to announce that we're about to release a date on it. It's called Rich Speak. And what it did was it actually reverse engineered what I did to become a speaker by taking everything I learned from speakers around the world and putting it in a 2-day workshop. Some people here actually have taken it before. So in that workshop, I'm able to see through what I call an authentication process, what keepers are running my clients, my students, my coachees, my world-class speakers in training. and I'm able to find what it is, work with them getting present to it and putting it in its place. Now you might be saying, well, what's that got to do with money? Everything. Because the trick is not to just first distinguish what's there, but to make them work for you to get there. Put them to work. Put them to work. You're not going to get rid of them, and you don't want to. That's what's kept you alive. It's what's kept you intact. It's what's kept you healthy, well, here, fed, happy, healthy, in one piece. When you all agree, give me a thumbs up. So why remove them? You want to be on top of them, pulling them. You don't want to be pulled by them and under them. So when you get angry, the hack is you activate the keepers. Who's got Richie mad now? Who's got Richie? Who? They come in like backing you up, like Jay DeHaan, who understood that someone insulted you at the bar. Who insulted my man? Come on now, let's go. It's Duke's up time. And the keepers are all behind me. Keeper of judgment, keeper of ego, keeper of fear, keeper of fantasy, saying, who's jostling my man? Who's messing with Suzanne Malloy Zaleski? Come on now. I'm going to take him up right now. Come on. And the keepers want to say, I'm going to bring these guys down. You hacked them. You made them realize that, no, I'm not angry with you. I'm angry about this. No more. Let's get it done. So when you do that, this is when you're able to say beyond change, beyond adaptation, beyond evolving, beyond collaborating. What you're able to do is you're absolutely pushing back the temptation to resist. No, you're not going to resist, you'll change. You're not going to just be agreeable, you're going to adapt. You're not just going to absolve yourself. All right, I give up, submit. You're going to evolve. And you're not going to just, collaborate, you're going to perspirate. You're going to work for it. And that what happens is you're now at the source of what comes next. That's authentic action. So to my dear friend Aaron Dunn, as he referenced my old friend, Werner Erhard, when someone says, well, what's the difference between action and authentic action? All I would say is this: action is what inspired you to look at what's possibly next for you. Authentic action is you and moving. That's authentic action. It's you and moving, nothing in between. Not because she said so. My mom told me I had to brush my teeth versus I brush my teeth. Or my wife told me if I don't fix and adapt, she's going to divorce me. No, you're adapting because that's what you stand for. It's just authentic action. So here's the 4 steps. The 4 steps for you to actually take this on, but more importantly, for you to be able to help others take it on. And it starts with this one. I want you to write it down. Number 1 is you want to start with, if you're coaching people and the first person you want to coach is yourself, you want to first list all the areas inside your life, your financial life, that absolutely is included in you getting more. Now, to give you a little bit of an insight, it should include areas of your financial life that you're able to earn money, that you're able to save money, that you're able to borrow money. And I don't mean borrow like as in, hustling friends or whatnot. I mean borrow as in lines of credit, credit cards, HELOCs, etc. And also maybe areas of your life that you're able to liquidate. I have a very dear friend that wants a brand new, beautiful watch. And I said, well, why don't you sell the ones you don't use? He goes, that's a great idea. So rather than having to go make more money to buy something you like, why don't you just upgrade from the watches you already have and don't use to get the one you really want and desire most? All of a sudden, you're net neutral. You didn't have to make more money. You didn't have to lose any money. You just swapped out. And by the way, what happened to his pressure, his stress, his upset, his anger about people with beautiful watches? It went like this, shoot. Why? Because he can. He can do it. And so can you. So the step 1 is list all the areas of your life that generate more money. That activates awareness. Let me look at all the areas of my life I'm able to, in fact, generate it. Number 2 is now you want to do is you want to pick one of those areas that you're not leveraging enough. Now, Grant Cardone, my old friend, would often say you've got to be willing to go to 0. What he meant by that, in my interpretation, is you want to be able to take away the security that you have so you can build anew. Because security is not your friend, it's your addiction. Ain't that right, Mr. Druth? Ain't that right, Suzanne? So when you do that, you then want to actually, step 3 is list all the things you can do, the people you can speak to, or the actions you can take to start mobilizing that one area. Who can you call? What do you need to learn? What have you got to meet? Who do you need to collaborate with? Because the 4th is then you want to start listing all the attitudes, or if I can just be advanced for a moment, if I can get ontological, if I may, existential, what new ways of being can you take on? Because I'll admit this as a Wall Street guy who managed billions of dollars and about to do it again. Just because I'm being strong and masculine doesn't mean I'm effective and impactful. Just because I'm rich with money doesn't mean I'm rich in the things that matter most to me. And the sad truth is, the older I get, the more I realize that. What runs all of our motivations are old stories. The opportunity for you is to write a new chapter so that you're not a slave to the story. You're the source of what comes next. Make sense? I apologize for being 1 minute over time, but I make no apologies for making an impact in this time. Was this of good value, good use today? Give me a thumbs up, guys. Hey, take a picture, post it. I promise I will repost it for my verified account, letting you all know that I appreciate the love. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your participation, no matter what you're doing. I love you, Steve Virtue. I love you, Tara Flynn. I love that you're here, Mike Gumnani. I love that you're here, Steve and Jay, Vincent, and what's up, Chris Dennis? I just saw you pop in here. I see you, Manal and Yusuf. I miss you, man. I miss us talking about how to duck and roll. I love having you all here. Guys, this has all been about you and your relationship to money, wealth, and worth. And when you get your relationship right with money, you get your relationship right with life, because it's just a game. We're here to play it and to win it on your terms and no one else. And the terms are this: grow richer in the things that matter most to you, no matter what. I love you. God bless. Be well, but more importantly, be rich.